Good evening, 49er faithful. It is another late edition of Between Two Beards. It is late night Niners. Maybe gets a little more feisty in these late night episodes. Randon, it's a pleasure to see you, my friend, back at home base now. Are you excited for the 49ers coming off of the bye?
I am. It was nice to have a weekend off. I didn't watch any football. I literally just stayed home, did nothing, cleaned up the house. Didn't have a drop of booze, just kind of chilled and watched some anime, watched some TV shows, reset the clock for the second half of the season of craziness that we're about to have. What about you? What did you end up doing?
I did watch football. I mean, I've got a sickness when it comes to that, right? Niners or not, if football is on, it's at least going to be on in the background, even if I'm not paying complete attention to it. But this has been a couple of weeks of resetting for me. I mean, it absolutely has been tumultuous. I had my birthday where I got thrown from a horse, picked up COVID, was sick as a dog for a little while, and then picked up a new job where I had to start that and just start to reconfigure my schedule in order to fit these live streams in. So it's sort of an incredible journey over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm just looking forward to dialing in some routine again. I put on the channel the new proposed schedule as it is. I think you and I will probably continue to be doing a later version of Between Two Beards. I'm now looking at doing a Thursday night show with Jackhammer as opposed to the Friday evening, moving the mailbag to Friday this week, trying for the call-in show on Saturday, and then the live shows around the game on Sunday. So it will be jam-packed, but I think that I will be able to continue to make the content work alongside this new position that I am taking as well. So I want to give a shout out to those that are here in the chat. We got a lot of excitement of people before the start of the show who were talking about, hey, man, we like these late night shows. It means we're probably going to get an F-bomb or two. And I think that's true. When you end up, you're at the end of the day, you're a little more tired. I let the occasional F-bomb slip. As soon as I let an F-bomb slip, you'll double down with 2 or 3 of them because you're like, it's on. If Rob's dropping them, I'm for sure getting my F-bombs in. But we got 420 Savage in the building. Sean 951 Niners is here. We have got James Schaefer making the appearance, and Beast Mode Gaming Sneakerhead here on the channel. Spy Nick Danger coming in. Beast Mode Gaming saying so late night shows. Yes, it is late. Raphael 5629 saying, what's up, Rob, Randon, Sneakerheads, and everyone. I am excited to get into this. We have Jesus in the building as well. JC, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Congrats on the new job. Thank you, JC. Always appreciate that. All right, so let's get into this, Randon, because we do have a full show of topics here, and it is a late night show. We got things to do. I got to get to bed at some point. Let's talk a little bit about the injury update. We'll start on the other side of the ball with the Chargers because they've been bitten by the injury bug as well. You're talking about 3 key players that are on IR at this point. Obviously, Nick Bosa's brother, Big Bosa, Joey Bosa on IR, J.C. Jackson, their star free agent corner acquisition on IR.
Big Bears in the cave. J.C. Jackson is not on the field.
In the cave. And you've got their left tackle, Rashawn Slater, right? Also on IR at this point. So it certainly is a case where the Chargers are dealing with their own set of injuries, but not to mention their wide receivers for this game. Unlikely to play on Sunday, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And so down both of their top wide receiver options, and they already had Jalen Guiton on IR from earlier in the season. So not that was a star within the wide receiver core, but when you need to go down to your next wide receiver, and some of them are already out as well, that doesn't help. So I'm going to guess that bodes well for the 49ers defense and the fact that we will be able to contain the Chargers on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, a little homage to Beast Mode Gaming asking me what anime I'm watching. The Niners are going to be like the Shadow Clone Jutsu, man. They're going to be all over the field. It's going to seem like they're going to be 22 guys out there. I do like Naruto, so that's my favorite. But I was watching 7 Deadly Sins this weekend. To bring it back to the Niners, though, yeah, they had major injuries. When you're losing 3 of the top players, I mean, the Niners should be able to take 4, actually, of the top players. You should be able to take advantage of that. I mean, without them having one wide receiver, the entire offense is flowing through Eckler, which he is playing CMC-like at this moment. I mean, he's averaging, I think, like 35 fantasy points the last like 4 weeks.
Oof.
Just absolute nuts. They're just feeding him the ball and making him make plays. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy where that offense is flowing through, and that's what we'll get to later in the game. But the injury is gonna dictate where the offense flows for the Chargers.
Yes, it will. And I think you're right. It is going to flow through Austin Eckler. That feels like the guy that you need to target on defense, that you have to absolutely account for, because that's where the Chargers are going to want to go with the ball on a regular basis. Beast Mode Gaming coming in to say, this is better than watching politics. So ready for Sunday. Yes, we had our voting in the midterms yesterday. We will not get into politics on this show because it's about sports. And one way to avoid arguing about politics is just not to talk about politics. Spy Nick Danger coming in. He says, Rob, all I want for Christmas is an NFC West title and a playoff berth. I mean, we'll get into a game prediction at the end of this one, but I've got to say, just in like state of the 49ers right now, I feel very good about where we are. I feel great sitting here at 4-4 at the bye, coming out of the bye. That was where I predicted the Niners would be at the beginning of the season. I had them coming out at 11-6, and I still see that as a very distinct possibility. And quite honestly, do not buy into the Seahawks being able to close this one out. So I feel it's a distinct possibility the Niners overtake the Seahawks and do win the NFC West this season. I don't think that's a pipe dream. I believe that can happen. It's a logical path for me to get there. How do you feel about this? Do you think the Niners have a good shot at the playoffs? How are you feeling about us sitting here 4-4 coming out of the bye?
I feel like there's pretty good chance for us there. I mean, I think there's plenty of football to be played. I think, but I don't think the Seahawks are a fraud team. You got Kenneth Walker, who is running the heck out of the football. Their defense is playing, fairly well in every single category. I believe, not that fantasy points mean anything, but they're top 5 in fantasy points in most aspects, because that's where I live my life now with 5 leagues, right? And Geno Smith is not turning the ball over.
Right.
Tyler Lockett is still playing at the top of his ability. DK Metcalf is playing well. Like, they're doing enough to win games, and they're not turning the ball over. And if you look at I saw this on Twitter, and some guy was like, well, if Jimmy G doesn't turn the ball over, the Niners continue winning games. Well, yeah, so does every team in the National Football League. There isn't one team in the NFL in the history of their franchise that has a losing record with 0 turnovers, right? So it's just the recipe to success is not turning over the football, and Geno Smith isn't doing that. So they don't have to play killer defense. They don't have to be juggernaut team. If they're not turning the ball over, they're going to be in every single game.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And let me say that I agree with you. I do not think that the Seattle Seahawks are complete pretenders. However, I do believe that their record reflects a better team than they actually are, and that Geno Smith will regress to the mean in turnovers. That I'm not buying this level of efficiency that he's been able to maintain to this point, and I think it will regress for the second half of the season. It will be tough to overtake them if the Niners want to get into first place in the NFC West. I mean, it is tough. They have one more game against Seattle. I will be there on Thursday Night Football. So that makes it even tougher, right? They have to overcome that as well. But we will see.
A loss. No. The jinx continues, right?
Unbelievable. I give shit to people on the channel, and now I've got my own co-host that is giving it to me.
Hey, I'm 0 for the last 4 years. I went to a Kings game a couple weeks or like 2 weeks ago, and we lost. I haven't seen my team win in like 4 years. And what's crazy is that my brother is like 6 years straight without seeing his team win. And he went to his girlfriend's college football, TCU game, and they won. And my brother, and so his girlfriend was like, "Does this count as a win? Does this break the chain?" And my brother goes, "No, I don't think it does." And I'm like, "Hey, anytime a baseball player is in a slump, you got to lay down a bunt or two. So even if it wasn't your team, you were rooting for that team and you got a W, hopefully that cracks the seal, and you get going."
Right.
So
I'm getting my butt to a Trailblazers game is what I'm doing. I'm breaking that streak by going to a couple of basketball games and getting a W under my belt.
Yeah. And in the spirit of Jay Cruz, fuck yeah, man. Time for some F-bombs. Let's have a beer. It's late night beards, baby. It's late night beards.
J. Cruz 49er says, so we dropping F-bombs yet? Because I'm ready, baby. Well, you just got your taste of the first one. JC, sneakerhead here on the channel, seeing the glass half full and feeling good for the second half of this season. Jeffrey says, Rob, I don't think you're unlucky. I was unlucky going to the Falcons game. Yeah, Randon and I both unlucky going to that one as well. Sean951 says, stop going to games. Wait until the playoffs. I can't. I have a sickness. I must go to games. It's too much fun. I don't care whether we win or lose. I care whether we win or lose, but I go to games regardless because the experience is phenomenal. All right, let's continue talking about injuries because this is good news on the 49ers front. Returning, Debo, Jawan Jennings practiced in full. Azeez, big play Dre, both out there. Dre was limited at practice. Elijah Mitchell is healthy and had a full practice. Colton McKivitz practiced in full, but technically both Colton McKivitz, Elijah Mitchell, and Azeez are all still on IR, but all did practice. Jason Verrett seems ready to play. This is according to Matt Barrows of The Athletic. If he does, it's against the team that frickin' drafted him back in 2014. That feels like it would be poetic, man, to get Jason Verrett back against the team that drafted him. Are you feeling it? Do you think Jason Verrett is back out on the field against the Chargers this weekend?
Long-term revenge game? Is that what you're saying there?
Yes, he's playing the long game. 8 years later, here it is.
I like it. I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter at this point because, right? I mean, Williams is out. Keenan Allen is out. I think we have enough to stop their passing game with who we have on the field. And even if he's 100%, I'd like him to be even further along in the recovery because we're not needing Jason Verrett for a game in November. We're needing him for a game in January. So I just think that we need to err even further on caution if possible, because I don't think that we need him necessarily for the Chargers this weekend. Not to undersell Herbert because he can light it up with the best of them.
Right.
But
that's very clear.
But you're looking at his weapons. You need to throw to somebody, right? And Verrett's not going to be covering Eckler out of the backfield. Palmer is really the only one that is effective, and he's been doing a decent job with what he's been asked to do. But he ain't no Mike Williams, and he ain't no Keenan Allen. So
yep.
Could you wait one more game and make sure he's 100%? I would lean on the caution of that. But if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. And I think the Niners are going to make whatever decision they seem is appropriate.
That's where I fall. So I contradict a little bit. I'm taking that last piece of if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. By the way, Jay Cruz is saying, hey, cheers, Randon. Cheers on that. So yes, if he's ready to go, and it sounds as if he is, so I'm going the other direction because Shanahan said that they would consider a cornerback rotation and said that he was real close 2 weeks ago to going against the Rams. So I like the sound of that not only was he close enough to go against the Rams, but that he's considering, I'm not just going to throw him in and have him play all the snaps. So this feels like a game where he could get his feet wet a little bit. The other clue for me is that Verrett is scheduled to talk to the media on Thursday, and he said for the longest time that he's not going to do any interviews until he was back on the field. So that feels like a positive sign that he will be back out there. Finishing up the injury updates on the defensive line, not quite as positive. Kinlaw's obviously out one more week because of the IR rules. He has to miss that fourth game. Eric Armstead didn't practice today. His injury is now being called a hairline fracture of the left fibula and plantar fasciitis on his right foot. So it's not looking great for him coming back this week, but they keep teasing it. Samson Ebukam didn't practice either. Achilles tendonitis that he's been dealing with the last 3 weeks and a quad injury from practice on Monday. Slightly upbeat to end on a positive. We did open the practice window for Jordan Willis to return. All right, we'll get into our next topic, but we do have a super chat here. Beast Mode Gaming, Sneakerhead here on the channel says, no worries, Rob. I still believe that we will win. Once you go there, you deserve a win this season. I appreciate you taking the time to put that up on the screen. I feel similarly. I feel like I have earned the next win that I go to, that I have suffered through some losses, Randon, and we will get to some of these wins on the other side. We're just going to need to do another two-beard game day next year so that we get a win on the books as well and wipe out that freaking Atlanta shabacle that was.
I know we could hug it out beard style after a W. It might be foreshadowing here, wearing the shirt of Minus the Bear. They're from up where you're at, right? Maybe get a win up in the north. Little foreshadowing there.
I like that. I would like that a whole heck of a lot. A win against the Seahawks counts as double. Absolutely counts as double. By the way, if you're watching right now, do me that favor of hitting the like button there. Help Randon and I amplify the signal to this little radio station. We also have Randon's links down below so that you can go down into the description of the video and follow Randon on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and go listen to that Hockey Royalty podcast. All right, Sean 9519ers coming in, sneakerhead here on the channel. Says, Rob, please explain how we don't score 35 points a game with the offense fully healthy. Jimmy G just needs to be John Stockton, passing the ball around, getting those assists. He says, that's it. No way a team can blitz us with Christian McCaffrey back there. I was looking into this, Sean. I agree that this offense should be able to put up points. However, there is only one offense in the league this year so far that's averaging above 30 points per game. I'm sure you could guess who it is. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. We helped them to that total by allowing as many points as we did. So it's difficult to get that offense up. The Niners are somewhere, I want to say that they were down around 12th at 22 points per game. So they definitely need to pick that up. I do not believe they'll be able to crest 30 points per game. But if they can get that average up to 26, 27 with this defense, I'm with you. They shouldn't be losing any games unless they come up against those games that become a coin flip because it is the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs.
I think Sean's onto something here, scoring 35 points a game for the fans. Jimmy Garoppolo wearing the short John Stockton shorts for all the females out there. I think something there. I mean,
I did not need that fucking mental image.
Jimmy G's got millions of dollars. He can accept the fines. He's out there wearing but I don't think he has the quadzillas to pull it off like Nick Bosa does.
Nick could pull that look off.
Jawline. He definitely has the jawline. That's for sure.
Nick wouldn't even get fined for that. The league would just be impressed.
His quads would eat the memo before it even got to him. That's what would happen.
Yes. Jeffrey Ortiz. Jeffrey was at the Atlanta game. Jeffrey, it didn't pick up on it earlier with your earlier comment, but yes, we met at the game. He says, Rob, I was glad to meet you, but do you think that the 49ers will make the playoffs? I do believe that the 49ers will make the playoffs. The NFC feels wide open at this point. And I know right now, as it's projected, the Niners are sitting there at the 7th seed if they were to go into the playoffs right now. I'm not a huge believer in the Seattle Seahawks. To what Rand and I were talking about earlier, I do not call them complete pretenders. I just don't believe they will finish the season as strongly as they have started it. And I'm not a believer in the vast majority of the NFC East either. I think that's going to regress to the norm. What was that, Randon?
Yeah, I just said I agree with you. I don't think they're contenders, but I don't think they're pretenders either.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle there. Sean 9519ers sneakerhead here on the channel says, guys, Seattle is not good. Don't matter. Arizona of 2021. That would be huge if, in fact, they collapsed on the level of Arizona. I would be doing a victory dance. I'm not ready to predict that, Sean. I think to Randon's points that he made very succinctly, they're playing very well. Fundamentally, they are playing great football, and that does keep you in a lot of games. Now, do I think that Geno Smith will continue at that level? No. Rookie running backs oftentimes drop off towards the end of the season, so maybe that happens to Kenneth Walker. I think it's a regression, though, and not a complete fall off.
Yeah, I think the only thing here is that Geno Smith doesn't play Call of Duty, so there's going to be no drop off in his play, as he would say with Kyler Murray.
When the next Call of Duty comes out. Peter Lee is keeping track. He says, F-bomb from Rob. Yes, indeed. Leonard coming in, sneakerhead on the channel says, not the John Stocktons. I'm telling you, whether it's on Jimmy or Nick Bosa, that's not something we need to see. It would look better on Bosa, though. All right, James coming in. James Schaefer, Rob, would an OBJ deal prevent a new Jimmy G deal due to cap space? Getting into future deals, I mean, the reality is no. the 49ers could continue to kick money down the road for some time. You've witnessed teams like the New Orleans Saints choose to do that. At some point, you have to pay the piper, but oftentimes that is 5-6 years down the line. So would it prevent them entirely? No. I'm not sure what kind of a deal OBJ is going to get himself. I like the logic of going after OBJ simply to keep him from going to other contenders. That would be the biggest reasoning in my book, not because he's a huge upgrade over Juwan Jennings, although I do think he is an upgrade over Juwan Jennings, to keep him away from some other team in the NFC that is one player away from being more of a contender. That feels like solid logic. How do you feel about OBJ and the Niners potentially pursuing him, Randon?
Yeah, the contract situation is rather interesting because you have what he got last year, which was $1.25 million with lots of incentives based on play time, touchdowns. I think he ended up making roughly about 3.8. The Niners have about $6.2 million in open cap space. So they could do an incentive laden deal like they did with Jimmy Garoppolo and his restructure. And so it'd be a 1-year deal, but OBJ's come out and saying that he wants something similar to Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup got injured. Now, granted, Michael Gallup isn't 30 like OBJ, but hasn't had the illustrious career. But if you look at what Michael Gallup got, 5 years, $57 million, cap hit for this season for 4.5, but it shoots up to 14, then 11, 13, and 13. So is OBJ going to go to a team that's going to give him some future rather than just a 1-year prove it? He's obviously going to go to a team that's a contender so that they're going to be a contender next year and they can they could use him as well. I don't think there is going to be a Jimmy G deal next year. I think it's Trey Lance. If they're going to, it is what it is. I hope Jimmy helps us lead us to a Super Bowl this year. I really do. I'm all behind the Niners winning with Jimmy G. I think it's Trey Lance's team. It would be idiotic not to use those. I mean, you gave up essentially, if you look at what Miami got, you gave up essentially Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle for Trey Lance. So if you're not going to play him with what you gave up to get him, then it wouldn't make sense to me. But let's bring it back into the OBJ and what that does here. Does he want to go to a team where he's essentially the fourth option? You have CMC, Debo, which is option 1 and 2, and then you can interchange 3 and 4 with Kittle and Ayuk. So he'll be the 5th option at that point, or maybe 4th in some games. He's not a slot guy. So does he play outside and Debo plays the slot and let him use his shiftiness back and forth? I think you're almost looking at an offense that you want to be interchangeable. I don't know what Kyle Shanahan's obsession is with 5 guys, but he keeps bringing it up not only in the QB draft, but this last week.
He likes the burgers.
He likes the burgers there. So I don't know. I mean, when he was the number 1 guy, he was throwing fits. When the only team he's really settled in and didn't really say anything was on the Rams, and they won a Super Bowl. So is he not going to be happy unless we're winning, or like, how does that look?
Well, I think that's the key. I do think that he needs to go to a team that's a contender and a team that's going to win, because I do believe that he needs to win in order to stay content, unless he's going to be the dominant option. And I just don't know physically if that's the type of receiver that OBJ is at this point. I would see the Niners needing to give him a multi-year contract, because my assumption would be he's tired of the 1-year deals. They have not worked out in his favor, and he may hold out for that team that says, all right, we'll give you a 3-year deal, and maybe that entices him to come to the 49ers, because to your point, if he comes to the Niners on a 1-year deal, he's the 4th, maybe the 5th option on the offense, an offense that's not putting up 30 points per game. Is he really going to be able to have the kind of statistics that would then propel him to a multi-year deal? Most likely not. So it's an interesting, intriguing situation for OBJ. We will keep our eyes on it. Sean 9519ers coming in with the super chat. He says Bosa's quads will make Polaris create a new razor. LOL. Hey, you put those out there in the John Stockton shorts, it would be pretty ridiculous. I'm telling you, people would faint.
The streets. Anarchy in the street.
Peter Lee asks a question. He says, do you think Kyler Murray will play versus the 49ers next week in Mexico? I heard today he's listed with a lingering hamstring issue, and it's day to day. I would not be surprised if things go a little bit off the rails for Arizona. I just don't get a sense that that sideline is all that cohesive at this point. It feels like it primed for a shakeup. So something like that, if it's a lingering issue, it wouldn't surprise me if at this point Kyler Murray was like, you know what, I'm going to let it heal, because if I go out there and I'm not my 100% self, I'm going to get blamed for this, and I don't want to take the blame for this.
Is the internet pretty good there in Mexico City? Because he's got to get his gaming in. So.
Oh no, Kyler. We're talking a little trash on this program, and I apologize. JC Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, Seattle is playing confident, and although we beat them convincingly, we've struggled against them in the past. Absolutely we have, especially in their home stadium there. I'm bringing this in just because I like it. Randy says, cheers, you motorboating sons of bees. I like it. Randy, cheers to you as well, sir. Leonard JG Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, would be nice to bolster the O-line. I don't think we're getting any reinforcements there. I think we are set. Colton McKivitz coming back. He did practice today, is still on IR, but should be activated in the next timely section when we do those activations. That's a big piece to have Colton McKivitz back. He is the fill-in there at either left or right tackle if either one goes down. So that is reinforcements on some level.
The team is just what it is at this point with the offensive line, whether you like McGlinchey or you don't. But you're looking at the unsung hero of the entire Niners team is Aaron Banks. I just don't think he's still allowed a sack all season. So the offensive line hasn't been fantastic, but they haven't been dog water or so to speak for the most of the season outside of a game here or there. But I mean, I think we're going to play with what we got, and that's what it's going to be.
Yes, indeed. We will play with what we got. Sean 951 Niners Sneakerhead here on the channel coming in with the super chat. Seattle will be 8-9. Mark it down. Bury me. If not 8-9, write that shit down right now, Randon. We got to bring this one back up. This is a guarantee. Sean, it's a guarantee.
Sean, I'll bet you $20 right now they have over 8 wins.
Ooh,
$20.
There's a wager out there on the line. Now, for any FBI watching, as long as that's legal, we're just kidding. If it's not, we're just kidding. Jaguile 56 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, first, welcome back. Then, any concerns on depth at D tackle? Yes. Jaguile 56, yes. First of all, thank you for welcoming us back. We are thrilled to be here. I am thrilled to be here. And yeah, D tackle is rough right now. You look at Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw are both a concern for me, as to not that they won't be back. I think both will make it back at some point. But what could linger after that? If they re-aggravate one of these injuries, that should be it for the year for either one of them. If Javon Kinlaw is continually dealing with the knee soreness, the tendonitis, they're probably going to shut him down at some point. And if Eric Armstead is dealing with a fracture, that's a similar case there. So yes, D tackle is a concern, and not bringing anyone in there feels like potentially one of the misses. Do have Jordan Willis coming back. You may be able to slide him inside at times, but that D tackle is thin at this point, Randon.
Yeah, you got 2 guys in wheelchairs are starting defensive tackles right now, and the rest of the team isn't very good. I just think it's going to be an issue, and not to plague the beast mode himself there in the center, the center there with Kinlaw, but you can't stay on the field, man. You just can't stay on the field, and I feel for you. You're not able to play your dream. I get it, but right now the cards are on the table. You're not on the field, and you're not helping this team. And Armstead's got 2 injuries right now, both for a big man in the legs is not good.
No.
So I'm not really, to be honest with you, I'm not counting on either of them for the rest of the season. If we get some good play down the stretch from either one of those, I'll be happy with it. But outside of that.
Yeah, I have to see this as I believe Armstead may be back, but he's not going to be his former self as far as a pass rush goes. He may continue to contribute there as a run defender. That is his bread and butter on the interior. His length is so critical for that. And it is one where I'm not so sure that I expect him to be able to contribute continually down the stretch. We got a couple of super chats to get to, but we also have Jay Cruz 49er coming in with this comment. Says, Rob, Niners need to go on a run here. We're getting more respect than the Chargers, and they have a better record. This is true. I was looking at the Athletics power rankings, and they have us at number 6 at 4-4, and they have the Chargers sitting at 12 at 5-3. No, sorry, they're at 14 at 5-3. So yeah, The Athletic is giving a lot of respect to the 49ers, as I think are other media sites out there. I have to say, I agree with them. Beast Mode Gaming coming in with the super chat here. Sneakerhead here on the channel says, bet at Randon $20. I call it too. I think what Beast Mode is saying here, that he's on Sean's side, that he believes it's going to be 8 and 9. Is that how you read that?
Yeah, I'm getting $40 at the end of this season. Here. That's what I'm saying. Beast Mode, you're on too. You're on too. 20.
Beast Mode, clarify if you are in on this. We'll see if that happens. And then Sean 951 coming back in with the super chat. CMC changed the game for us. D cannot blitz. It's poison. The offensive line is fine. Jimmy G will eat. Randon 20 on Seattle. Peanuts, baby. Give me a spicier bet than that. He says, all right, we may have to come up with a gentleman's wager to make it a little more fun there. But we'll come up with that later. Joey Mellons has stopped into the chat, and I want to say hello. What up, Joey? By the way, those of you that are here, do us that favor. Smash that like button like Ronnie Lott used to smash wide receivers. Let's get into a little bit of sad news. No Bosa versus Bosa. This is just an acknowledgement that it's kind of sad that the brothers are not going to get to take advantage of their very first opportunity to play one another. They played on the same team in high school, but since then have not had the chance to play against one another. This was the very first one. You had dad was like, dude, I'm wearing an all white t-shirt. I'm Switzerland. I'm neutral. And mom was like, F that. I've got a jersey that's half Nick and half Joey. So I'm supporting both of them. I got to say, I feel like dad was copping out. I feel like mom's got the right freaking attitude on this one. Like you're half bleeding Niners, you're half bleeding Chargers, and you're happy and you're sad at the end of the game, no matter what. I feel like it's a cop out to say, no, I'm neutral on this one.
Yeah, the only reason to ever wear a half and half jersey is if you are a mother to two kids. That is the only reason. That is the asterisk to that rule. Otherwise, you are a chump if you have a half and half jersey. Because why? Well,
I think a dad teams? Could wear one too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, parents, same thing. Yeah,
but it seems like a mom thing. It seems like a caregiver thing.
It is.
That dad's like, I'm just gonna wear a white shirt because I don't want to show feelings.
Yeah, just put on my wife beater.
Put on my shirt. So no, I think. I was looking forward to it. You're looking at one bear eats, dips into the river, gets a salmon sack. The other one comes in and said, watch this. I'm going to do a spin move salmon sack. There's lots of salmon eating. I like a good salmon. I don't know about you with some fish, but the Grizzlies were going to eat at the river on both teams. And now we're only going to see one bear eat. Big Bear is in the cave. Little Bear is going to be out on the river picking out some salmon left and right.
Little Bear's going to eat for 2. That's what's going to happen. Little Bear's eating for 2.
Yeah, 2 sacks on the day for Nick Bosa. Write it down. Let's go.
Yes, and I agree with Robert coming in saying Sunday can't get here soon enough. Let's go Niners. Yes, indeed, we do need to find. Look at this. We got a fan challenge. James Schaefer is coming with a fan challenge. He says, fire drill, Rob and Randon. Grab your favorite Niner hat for us. I only have 2 options. I'm going with this one.
I would have to go into my closet. So if you want to be without me for a little bit while I dig through some stuff.
No, I do not. That's panic time. What do I do without you, Randon? I'm lost without you, my bearded brother.
What do I do with my hands?
I don't know. All right, so we got to contain Herbert. We talked about it earlier. This is going to be a little bit easier because he doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to. But he's still a highly talented quarterback. He's going to get the ball to Eckler. He's obviously got some more junior wide receivers out there. But I will say, without that interior pressure, without Armstead, without Kinlaw, the Niners haven't been getting the interior pressure. They've been generating it sometimes with well-timed blitzes. In the second half against the Rams, they did phenomenal timing it with Fred Warner being that great interior pressure. If the Niners struggle to get interior pressure on this one, do you think Bosa and Samson Ebukam, if he plays, and if not, Charlie Omenihu and Drake London, are they going to be able to generate the pressure we need to contain Herbert in this one and rattle him with some hits?
I think the pressure is going to come through coverage in this game, and the coverage is going to be based on where they're going to be attacking the defense. Gerald Everett is still an athletic tight end. You have Eckler, who is one of the best pass-catching running backs in the game.
Yes, he is.
They're going to be stressing our linebackers and the slot corners to no avail. So Is Warner going to be up for it? We might get Al-Shaair back. Who knows if that practice window is going to equate to him getting a start.
Right.
So I think the middle of the field is going to be stretched. The center part of our defense is going to be stretched quite thin, and Eckler has been doing it to every team in the NFL. I don't expect to contain him to fully stop him, maybe contain him. You still have Gerald Everett that can stretch the field. But I think the biggest loss for them is, obviously Keenan Allen kind of controls that middle of the field, but Mike Williams stretched the field. When you stretch the field, you allow Eckler to get more dump offs and that type of thing. We saw it with the Niners. If there was no threat to go deep, everybody put more people in the box. It was harder for them to throw it around the field. Obviously, Herbert doesn't matter who he's throwing to. He can still chuck it 40, 50, 60 yards. But you still have to throw it to somebody. I mean, Palmer is not on Charvarius Ward's level. Will he be just shadowing him the entire time? If it were me, I would, and I would let our backup corner play whatever other receiver puts a jersey on the other side. So, I think the game starts and ends with the linebackers in this one, and how many sacks we get depends on the coverage, I think.
And so you're looking at a situation where it seems most likely that Fred and Azeez will be out there, but that Dre will not, that Dre will need a little more time to round back into form. I think you're right to say the middle of the field is where the defense needs to be focused, because that's where the weapons remain for the Chargers. I would argue that Eckler is tops in the league, maybe behind only Kamara as a pass catching threat, right? If I'm starting a team and I want somebody who's taking those screens out of the backfield, Eckler is damn high on that list. And so it's nothing to be sneezed at, much like Cooper Kupp. It's coming. The offense is going to run through that man. And yet you still can't really stop him because he's still going to eat on certain plays. There are just certain things that guy is able to do that your defense is going to be unable to stop. I think the conundrum for DeMeco Ryans will be around whether he does continue to use well-timed blitzes, utilizing Fred Warner, and then vacating the middle of the field, or whether he feels it necessary, given where the strength of the Chargers offense remains, whether he will feel that he needs to keep Fred Warner back there in coverage. So I think that's something to keep your eye on in this one from the defense. We got a super chat coming in from Jaguile 56 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, thoughts on whether Verrett is starting this game? You call out Verrett, I got to put the shoes out there. Rob Schuh and Jason Verrett. Man, we're going to make this interview happen. I think Verrett's been holding off on the interviews until he plays. He's going to play. He's going to start in answer to that question. Because the deal is, if you're going to play him, if he's going to get in even for 10 snaps, he's got so much respect on that defense, he has to be the starter. So he will get that starting nod. Whether he plays the majority of the snaps, I think the answer to that in my book is different. I would say no. I think that they ease him into this game. To Randon's point, he's not really needed. So that gives you the luxury of just getting him a few snaps, allowing him to get his feet wet, get out there, make some positive plays, but not keep him out there for too long. So yes, I believe he gets the start, and I do not think that he plays the vast majority of the snaps on defense. Randon, what say you about Jason Verrett and him being out there on Sunday?
I mean, if he's ready to play, he's ready to play. But I mean, if it's 99.5% ready and he's not 100% ready, then you sit him. Like, he's had so much injury history to where there's really no need. Our corners have played well. I don't think that their weapons there on the other side of the football warrant him as a necessity to play him. I mean, if he's ready to go and he feels confident, he was the first person in all team drills today. I don't know what that means, but that's the first time he's been with the team in all the team drills, and he was the first one to take reps. So I don't know if that means that he's being thought of as, hey, he's preparing to start. So we'll see how that goes. If he's ready, he's ready. Only he knows and the coach know. I just think there's zero need to put him in before he's 100%.
Yes, that I agree with. And that only the trainers and the coaching staff and Jason Verrett can actually know the truth of. But you are 100% right there. If he is not 100%, you hold the man back. You hold the man back. James coming in to say, what's up, Rob? Why are the 49ers 7-point favorites? Wow. So the 49ers were favorites to begin. The news of the wide receivers certainly gives bettors more confidence to bet on the Niners. The more percentage of the wagers that land on the Niners, the point spread then begins to reflect that. They move the needle to entice people to bet on the Chargers as well. So I do believe that those wide receivers being out, even if we took that out of the equation, I think the Niners had a good chance to beat the Chargers full health to full health. Take out both starting wide receivers on the offense for the Chargers, and I'm skewing that in the 49ers' favor. So I'm not sure. A 7-point victory is a big one in the NFL, and I've not done my score prediction yet on this one, but I could see why the 49ers are the heavier favorites. Ian Sharp coming in says, have to limit Eckler, and that's our next topic, so it's our transition. We are trying to stop the run against Eckler here coming up. So without the passing weapons, obviously the usage for Eckler is going to go up. Phenomenal pass catching back. We just touched on that. Do you believe that the 49ers can begin to return to form against the run, considering they're probably not getting Eric Armstead and they're definitely not getting Javon Kinlaw back in this one? Or are they missing a piece on this defense, considering both of those injuries, that is going to continue to linger for them? What trend do you foresee happening here, sir?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit sticky here because Eckler right now, you're looking at their run offense. He hasn't been doing that great. 3-point yards, 3.4 yards, 2.6 yards. But what he is doing is he's sniffing pay dirt. So he's got 6 touchdowns in the last 5 games rushing. So, and not to mention his receiving work. And so if they get into the red zone, he's sniffing the end zone. He's sniffing the end zone and he's finding it right now. The big game for him came out against Cleveland, where he shellacked them for 173 on the ground, averaging 10.8 yards per carry. But other than that, if you go over to the receiving, though, is where he's really digging teams. 24 yards against the Falcons, but 96 receiving yards against Seattle, 10 for 47 against Denver. But also in the last 5 games, 4 receiving touchdowns. So if you're doing math correctly, he's averaging 2 touchdowns a game in the last 5 games. He's finding ways to be successful around the red zone. And that's where we really need to limit them. And if you're looking at what CMC has brought to the Niners and the versatility around the red zone, being able to run, being able to catch, doing whatever, like he's the guy. He's the guy, and they get inside the 20. That's where it's going.
That is where it's going. He is going to be the focus of this game. And quite honestly, I believe that Fred Warner is going to get the better of Eckler in this one. Fred, Aziz, it is tilting in the Niners' favor. I'm predicting it now. By the way, I had to put this one up. I just like hearing the voice of Will Ferrell. Mom, meatloaf. It just tickles me every time in my mind that I hear that. Just a dude, man, sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, I'm late to the stream, but would be curious to know who each of you think needs to be the second half MVP for them to make the run to the show. My vote would be Trent Williams. All starts there. I cannot fault that with Trent Williams. I will say that because of the way in which Kyle Shanahan operates, if Christian McCaffrey is healthy and the odds-on favorite of as far as targets, carries, receptions, if he continues to be used at that level and is able to sustain while being used at that level, that to me is the quickest way to see the 49ers offense scoring close to that 30 points per game. And I am in lockstep with Sean 951 and believing that if they were to get to that level on offense, they would not lose nary a game from here on forward, because this defense is good enough to stand up with that. To me, if it were Christian McCaffrey, that will be a positive for this offense. I think that it is, to me, the biggest question mark there is, will it be overused? Will he be able to sustain? If the answer is no, he's not overused, and yes, he is able to sustain, I think that this offense may start to look a little bit more like that Kyle Shanahan 2016 offense with the Atlanta Falcons. Who do you see as being the MVP for the second half that would best boast this team into the playoffs and beyond?
Yeah, the needs there would have to be Jimmy Garoppolo. He would need to be
fair.
the MVP. But I'm going to go with the guy that leads the whole team is Kyle Shanahan. And we didn't get on the podcast last week after the game because I would have went on a pretty big diatribe on a win against Kyle Shanahan because what the fuck are you doing keeping Christian McCaffrey out on the field?
I love how you just realized
left?
You could turn that F into a fuck. You're like, wait a minute.
Let's turn it up to 11. Let's turn it up to 11. What the fuck is he on the field for when we're winning by multiple scores and with 3 minutes left?
It was questionable. And then he defended it.
He's like, oh, yeah, he needs to be out there. No, he doesn't.
Does he really? Or could Jeff Wilson Jr. have been out there?
Could Jordan Mason have just taken the run up the middle? Like, it really makes no sense. I think the fact that he needs to be it. And my thing is this. I think he has like 3 come from behind wins when down at the half, and last week was one of them. He's not great at coming from behind. The defense is stagnant in the second half of games. Now you have no excuses. You have Jimmy G playing good football. You have CMC, the best running back, arguably, or the best weapon, arguably in the NFL. And then you have the second best weapon in Deebo Samuel, interchangeably there. Best tight end in football in George Kittle. You have Ayuk, who's stellar. Like there's no excuses anymore for Kyle Shanahan. And he's had games where his game clock has been bad. There's been games where he leaves players out on the field. The question of did he cause Trey Lance's injury by running him up the middle a billion times out there is up for question in my opinion. I know you're shaking your head, but you're wrong. And so, but I just think that it's up to him. Like good coaching is going to get you anywhere. And there's no reason for this team not to be lighting the lamp every single game with 25, 30 plus points. There's no reason for it. And the only person that's going to be holding this team back is going to be Kyle Shanahan if he makes mental mistakes on how long he keeps players on the field and not being aggressive on 3rd and 4th down, not having this team prepared coming out of the locker room in the second half to where we're stagnant on offense. That it's going to be him, and it's only going to be him where this team does not have a playoff berth or a deep run in the playoffs, in my opinion.
I like that. I mean, we could go ticky-tack on, most valuable player, but I think you're onto something with Kyle Shanahan being the most valuable person, not necessarily.
He didn't say player anywhere in that.
No, MVP, most valuable person. We'll just change it up as we see fit. Sean 951 Niners Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, Randon, this game, a mirror image, Green Bay 2019. So thinking it's going to tilt heavily in the 49ers favor. James coming in to say 49ers are bigger Super Bowl winning favorites than the Cowboys. Hell yeah. Hey, anytime we are favored over the Cowboys, regardless of whether we're talking about the Cowboys or not, we will take that as a plus. All right, let's talk about a couple of quick hitting topics here. Keeping Jimmy Ward at the nickel spot. Just quickly here, Randon, is this a misuse of talent? He's in the last year of his contract. I got to say, like, on some level, it doesn't seem right to me. I'm not sure that I see Tayshaun Gibson as any type of upgrade. But maybe I'm just not seeing the whole picture where it's like, hey, it's not that Tayshaun's the upgrade. It's that Jimmy's the upgrade at the nickel because Diamador Lenore and Samuel Womack really were struggling there. That's not what I saw, but I'm willing to admit that I can be wrong. How do you see this? Is it a misuse of Jimmy Ward's talent, or is it the best player at the best position to help the team?
No, you're putting the second best player in both positions. Like Ward is not the best nickel on the team. He's not.
No.
Because he doesn't play that all the time. He's the best safety to cover tight ends.
And he doesn't play it enthusiastically. He plays safety covering tight ends like a man out of hell, a man on a mission, but he doesn't seem to want to play nickel. No.
He's flat out said he doesn't want to play nickel.
Right.
And he said, like, I don't know what the team's doing. Like, Tayshaun Gibson is not the future for the Niners. Right? He's not.
That's a fact.
And so you're looking at Jimmy Ward. If they don't extend him, you still have $6 million that's pushed down the line because of the restructure. So you're going to be paying Jimmy Ward $6 million to play somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So, like, are you going to re-sign him? Are you not going to re-sign him? But he's one of the best safeties in the game, and he can come down and spot, guard tight ends, which he'll need to do against Everett. Like, let the corners play. And maybe this will change. Maybe this will change if Verrett comes back and they have more depth at corner, and they're not as worried about it. Maybe this will change, but I think you're playing the worst safety, and you're not playing the best corner in that spot. Like, what are we doing? Like, you're putting two guys that are not advantageous for your team in both spots. It makes no sense. Like, why not play Jimmy Ward in his best spot and only sacrifice one position? Now you're sacrificing two positions.
Right. And you're looking at Jimmy Ward, the most tenured, respected defensive player on the team. Again, feels like a little bit of disrespect there. I know that it's not. I know DeMeco Ryans is clearly a respected leader within the locker room. I respect the hell out of him. I do question this one move, and I wonder who's primarily driving it and whether they will stick with it when the cast does come off for Jimmy Ward, or whether it is something that's temporary. Let's stay in the backfield.
Where is this for you? What does play in the season? How long does that carry forward, right? Like, Gibson was playing hot in the first 4 games. How long is that leash for him? Because he hasn't played like that hot lately, in my opinion. No. Maybe I'm not a DB analyst. Maybe the underlying current stats that coaches want to use sometimes are proving me wrong in that aspect. If you're in the chat, like, tell me what you think. But I think the fact that, like, he was playing hot in the beginning of the season.
Right.
Now he's cooled off.
First 3 games, I could understand it. But now it feels like he's playing consistently. I'm not trying to say that Tayshaun Gibson is playing poorly at all. It seems like he is playing the position well. He is in position most of the time. And that feels like the reasoning that we're getting as to why he'll stay there. But the fact is that Jimmy Ward often plays exceedingly well at that position, right? When we look at history of Jimmy Ward over the past few years playing safety, those are solid performances. Whereas when we go back to the beginning of his career, when they were doing what they're doing to him now, it was very inconsistent. So it feels like we're going back to something that we already tried once that didn't work out so well. And so it just becomes a question for me of what's the purpose of it. I get that it's attempting what I predict, what I attempt to sell myself on is that it is the 49ers believing they're getting the best 11 players on the field at the same time. I just have to say at this point, I kind of disagree with them. But in staying in the secondary,
Womack and Lenore have done great job at the nickel at points in the season.
Especially, I don't understand the switch from Womack. If I'm honest about it, I know that the critique was in the run game. Teams were not having considerable success against us in the run game early on in the season. So I'm not seeing it. It must have been egregious errors that forced the 49ers. I mean, that is the kind of thing that rubs Kyle Shanahan the wrong way. If you are not in the correct place, if you're not where you should be on a particular play, and you're a young player, that's a good way to find yourself in the doghouse. I just haven't seen enough to understand this shakeup and believe it to be airtight.
Yeah, I disagree with what's going on here, and I'm not in any position to make changes, so I'll just have to live with it.
We will sit here on the sideline. All right, sticking in that secondary before we get to the super chat coming up in just a moment, but Talanoa Hufanga having himself a fantastic year, in particular at the start of the season, but it is contrasted by the fact that he is one of the leaders in the league in missed tackles. PFF listed him as the biggest surprise of the first half of the season. What they said about it was one of the breakout stars of the NFL in 2022. Hufanga just keeps making a ton of big plays. He was known as a box safety at USC, yet has excelled in coverage this season en route to becoming a well-rounded player. So with the missed tackles, are you seeing this as a weakness or merely a result of play style?
This is one of those situations where it's like, I have a problem, but I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're just bitching and moaning about something. Like it's a problem for me, like him missing all these tackles. But I do think it's somewhat to do with play style. I think the fact that he's flying across the field like a missile, sometimes missiles miss, right? And it is what it is. And you leave your team out to dry. Sometimes on games where we're not in control, it's devastating. I think it's easier to rein somebody in than it is to push somebody forward. So maybe that's something that he does, but is he really playing the level of football we saw in the first 3 weeks without his style? Like in the first 3 weeks, he was making every tackle and being all around the field. So, man, I just don't know what the solution is for this. I don't know if it's a bad stretch. I don't know if it's his play style. I just know it's an issue. And there's been some times where his missed tackles have caused drives to extend, which led to scores, which why we lost the game. And I'm not saying that he's the reason we lost the game, but he's the reason that drive went forward the way it was because he missed the tackle. So all football players miss tackles too. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, for me, it's just like he plays such an erratic style where he's just gas is all the way down.
Right.
He ripped the brake pedal out of the car. Like, he's like, I don't even need this.
I don't need any brakes.
I don't even need this. Right. There's just brake fluid all over the field because he just ripped out the whole compartment there. So I think it's good for the team. I think and if you get a guy like Jimmy Ward back there who is more calculated and more smart, then it allows him to make these plays. It allows him to be a little bit more rambunctious in the backfield and have that kind of safety play there. So, man, I just think I don't want to be a negative Nancy in the fact that this needs to change. He's playing poorly because I still think he's playing well.
Yes.
He's not getting the turnovers that he was in the beginning of the season.
Right.
So maybe it's just the curve leveling out, and we're going to see some sort of middle where Hufanga's playing. Maybe not what we've seen lately. Maybe not what it was in the middle of the season, but somewhere in the middle. And I don't know. What do you think?
I think his play style, and I think you have to take the good with the bad. I believe that he will continue to improve in this. I think we'll see steady improvement, and I'm taking it right now with the way it stands, leading in missed tackles, but leading in other categories as well. I want to give a shout out to Kyle Posey, who provided these statistics from Niners Nation. But after 8 games, he does lead all safeties in missed tackles, has one of the highest missed tackle percentages in the league. However, he has forced on the other side of this, making the positive argument for Hufanga and his season, he's forced an incompletion on 14% of his targets. It ranks 4th amongst safeties with at least 20 targets. He's in the top 6 for both pass breakups and interceptions and hasn't allowed a touchdown in coverage. 5 tackles for a loss with an average depth of tackle at 2.4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's a phenomenal blitzer. The missed tackles are obviously there, but this is the final one and the most important. Per Sports Info Solutions, no safety has saved more points than Hufanga at 33. So 33 points that did not hit the board for the opposing offense because of him. So I believe that he is, you take the good with the bad with Talanoa Hufanga. And right now, I think you average those two together, it is wildly positive in my book. And so I'm gonna continue to be excited.
Damn it, Rob. Why do you have to come with facts, man? Why do you have to come with facts?
What are you bringing facts for? Who needs
I like
these?
it. Man, I'm usually the stat guy, man. You're pumping these stats in there. I love it.
Well, hey, like I said, thanks to Kyle Posey for that one there. Sean9519ers does bring in the super chat here, Sneakerhead here on the channel. He says, guys, the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan are a machine. It's competitive football in all 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams, you name it. If the offense gets whacked, defense is affected. Vice versa. When we're healthy, we're in the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game. Hard to refute that. Must have a lead. We have to play time of possession or effed with Kyle Shanahan. Time of possession or screwed in that one. Fucked in that one, I suppose, is what we're going for there, because we're dropping the F-bombs on this one. To hell with the advertisers. Fuck them. So, yes, we are into the fact that I agree. This is complementary football is what this team is built around. John Lynch has talked about it. Kyle Shanahan has talked about it. And they practice what they preach. They built a defense first and foremost, and they did it old school. Well, not old school, but circa 2000 Tampa Bay Bucs style, where you build from the interior of the line to the edges. That defensive line comes in waves, and you just have that type of a unit. And then Kyle Shanahan on the other side has said, I want to build an offense that has enough skill position players that I could go out there and play quarterback if I wanted to, which I meant to throw out there for your MVP suggestion. I really feel like Kyle Shanahan, after he signed Christian McCaffrey, could probably go out there himself and actually run this offense. I think in his head, he's like, damn it, Jimmy, if you don't get this together, man, I'm just going to go out there myself because I could make it happen with all of this talent on offense. So I agree, though, that this is complementary football. All three phases have to work together. And therefore, when one is off, it makes it seem like the whole thing is out of whack.
My biggest thing with this is why do we have to? Like, it's the same thing. Like it's like the Bill Walton thing where he's like, the keys to the game is to score more points than the other team. Well, no shit, right? Like yeah, if we don't turn over the ball and we have time of possession and we run the football, yeah, those are successful quote points for winning the game. Well, what I pointed out is that Kyle Shanahan has an extreme losing record, even with being down by only 3 points in the second half. Like, he's not good at coming back from games. He's not good at having the offense ready to go in the second half. And why do we have to win games if we dominate all other facets of the game and leave the offense to just play mediocre offensive football, we win? Like, to me, we shouldn't have to be that way. Like, we have some of the most elite weapons on offense. We have 3 all-pros in skill position players on offense. 3. So, like, there's no reason for us to rely on the defense. There's no reason for us to say, hey, let's just get a lead and coast this out. No, like, if we make mistakes, we should be able to come back from games and win games. If we're down by over 1 score in the third, you should have confidence in the Niners, which I don't right now, to come back and win those games. I want to see something different. I want to see Kyle Shanahan elevate this offense to a new stratosphere, be the offensive genius that he's been shown to be, because right now, I don't think he is. I don't think he's shown it on a consistent nature all the time that he can win games. He can elevate his offense to a new level, because if he's not winning going in the second half, he loses the ball game. It's plain and simple.
And as someone who defends Kyle Shanahan as being an offensive genius, I think that is one of the most cogent arguments against it. Is like, I'm in incomplete lockstep. If the Niners are down 2 scores in a game, I'm like, well, I'm going to watch the rest of it, but we all know how this one's turning out. And if you're an offensive genius, if you've got Andy Reid on the other side of the ball, you don't blink at a 14-point deficit, right? You say to yourself, oh, well, this one got out of hand, but we're going to climb right back into it. I don't feel that way. And I do think that that's a fair criticism of Kyle Shanahan as that offensive genius that I want to label him as. But if you can't put together an offense that can come back on a consistent basis, if you need big leads, if you need to lean on your run game and your defense, what does that say about your offense? Jaguar 56.
Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice one time to be like, hey, the Niners are down 28 points at the halftime, like, and you go get a beer and you're like, we're still in this game. Do you believe any Chiefs fan, if they're down 28 half, is like, oh, this game is over with? They're like, no, let's get a beer and let's watch Patrick Mahomes work. Like, that's what they're. And
just in watching the last Chiefs game, man, you could sense in that stadium that people were getting restless, that people were like, man, this offense feels disjointed tonight. We can't get anything going. But they're just a couple of big plays away from getting back in it. And you're right. I do not feel that way about the 49ers. Jaguar 56 coming in with the super chat. Rob, agree with Randon. Play Jimmy Ward. But then the question, who plays nickel? Honestly, I didn't see enough negative coming from Samuel Womack that I wouldn't have the rookie back out there. But now that you have Jason Verrett coming in at the outside, you'll probably have him rotating with Diamador Lenore for the first game. But as long as he's healthy out there, I would expect him to reclaim that starting position for the full time. And then you would have the option of moving Diamador Lenore inside. So I think it would be a coin toss for me between Diamador Lenore and Samuel Womack. Do you have a preference on who would play nickel there, Randon?
Womack.
I
said it first. I said it in the middle of the season. I say it now. I'll say it at the end of the season. It's Womack for me.
Womack indeed. J. Cruz, 49er coming in. Rob, it's put up or shut up time. Our run starts on Sunday. Can't be beating teams in every statistical category and losing to teams we are better than. If we make a run to the Super Bowl, it starts Sunday. I really think there's something to this. That's, it's a bit hyperbolic to be like, hey, Niners win this one big and send a signal to the league, or they're not making it to the Super Bowl. I'm not going that far, but I do believe what we see on Sunday night will give us a glimpse into what we're going to see for the remainder of the season. I think it will be a foreshadowing of just how good of a stretch of football we can put together. If we come out and lay an egg on Sunday Night Football, I will say that my hopes for this season will take a significant blow. Whereas if we come out in control and really do show that we can handle the Chargers readily, I'm going to feel pretty good going down the rest of the stretch of games.
I have a feeling like this is kind of it's kind of a lose-lose situation, right? If we lose this game, it's bad. If we win this game, but not by a lot, then you're like, okay, like this team had no weapons.
Right. They didn't have any wide receivers.
Why are we not putting up 35 on this team? I think the only way this game looks good is that we just put our nuts on the table and just completely embarrass the Chargers.
That's the only way we come out of this feeling airtight, I would say. All right, let's make a little prediction about what the 49ers rushing attack might look like. We got a couple of minutes left here coming up to the 10 o'clock hour. Late night Niners on Pacific time. It's 10 o'clock. That means it's almost midnight where you are, Randon. Randon goes hard. Let me tell you, he is here for the podcast. It's what he does. He just crushes it. All right, so what is this rushing attack going to look like with the return of Elijah Mitchell? Let's say, for shits and giggles, that Elijah Mitchell is not lying. He is 100% healthy coming into this. That's his claim as of this week. It feels a little bit like, hey, I'm coming back for my piece of the running back room because I know you got CMC out there, but I'm healthy. Remember what I did last year. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan will recognize that and it will be close to an even split in carries? Or has Kyle Shanahan found his new favorite toy in Christian McCaffrey and the carries will show that?
The weapon, Christian McCaffrey should be a weapon and Elijah Mitchell should be a running back. Like,
interesting take. I like that viewpoint. What do you mean by that, Randon?
And so I'm saying, like, Christian McCaffrey has to be in the backfield. You can't get predictable to where, hey, like he's never going to run the football, right? So, but him and Debo are interchangeable. Debo should get some run in the backfield too, a little bit.
Yes.
And then you have, I liked a lot of the set in the beginning of the game, last game with Jeff Wilson Jr. with both McCaffrey and Jeff Wilson were on the field at the same time, right? First play went to first play went to McCaffrey, second play went to Jeff Wilson or vice versa. Anyways, but they were both on the field at the same time.
Yes.
Right. Then you had McCaffrey split out. You had, Jeff Wilson split out. I think Mitchell is not a great pass catcher, but he can catch dump offs, right? So, like, you're just really kind of moving this field around, and you want the offense to look like an amoeba. You want them to not know where it's going. You want to be able to throw up the same formation 3 separate times and have 3 separate destinations for the football. You want the Mitchell to be in the backfield and CMC to be in the slot, and he catches a little ball there. You want him to motion back there. Hell, you put Juice back there, run the wishbone. I don't care. Like let's really mix it up and get creative. Almost to the fact, like, I just want to see Shanahan out there with a board and just doing this, right? And then that's just like everybody's going everywhere. You're doing all the different kinds of stuff. Like, the defense should have no idea where the ball is going. Like, that is where I'm coming with this. And the rushing attack, as far as if you're breaking it down to just splits on the carries, I kind of agree with Freddie Mac there at the bottom, probably 60-35-5. Like, I really kind of agree with that there. But I think it should be where CMC is more utilized with Debo as an interchangeable weapon. Like, move CMC outside, move CMC in the slot, move him in the backfield, have him play right behind the tight end. Like, really move him around a lot. Same thing with Debo. It's where you don't know where the ball is going.
Yeah. I think you've hit on something that a vintage Kyle Shanahan offense is most successful when it is amoeba-like, when it is from any particular position, you don't know what they're doing. You don't know whether it's a run. You don't know whether it's a pass. And to have these interchangeable pieces out there makes it that much harder to predict. I agree with Freddie Mac Dre here as well. I think he's right in the ballpark of how this breaks out. CMC getting the majority, because I do think Kyle Shanahan has found his new toy and he's not going to tire of playing with it because it's exciting and it does very wondrous things when it's out there on the field. Christian McCaffrey is freaking special. I do hope that Mitchell gets at least that level of carries, though, because if not, it just feels like a misuse. You have talent in Elijah Mitchell. He clearly runs this scheme very well. It's unfortunate in some respects that they decided to trade away Jeff Wilson Jr.? Because you made a point that I think does change with Elijah Mitchell out there and not Jeff Wilson Jr. And it is those two-back formations, because Jeff Wilson Jr. is a good enough blocker that you can then turn him into the lead back, the fullback in that set, and have him block interchangeably, not interchangeably, but close to what Juice is able to do when he's out there, but he's also a better runner than Juice. When you switch it out for Elijah Mitchell, you have better running ability, no question about that. But he's certainly not the blocker that Jeff Wilson Jr. was. So I wonder if that actually gives the same advantage to the 49ers in running those two sets. My fear is that Kyle Shanahan will go well beyond this breakdown of 60% for CMC. And if it drifts into that 70% range, if Christian McCaffrey is taking 70% of the carries, I'm going to be concerned about that overuse. And so my hope is it's closer to what Freddie Mac Dre is putting here.
Let's look at the breakdown real quick here. We'll say 25 carries in this game.
Yeah.
Say 25. If you go 30%, that's roughly 7. Debo gets 5%, that's roughly 1.5. So you're saying 8 carries total. We'll just say we'll average it out.
Yeah.
So that's what, 7? That's 17. Yeah, 17 carries for CMC. That's still a lot. That's a good game. 17 carries for CMC.
That's a good game.
And 6 to 7 for Mitchell and 1 or 2 for Debo. Like that makes.
I'm comfortable with that. My fear is when you get into like a 30 carry game, a 35 carry game, and you're talking about CMC at like 23, 24 carries instead of balancing it out more. So if we're seeing below 20 carries per game for Christian McCaffrey, the vast majority of times he's out there, I think I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think where my biggest thing was, which we saw in the Rams game, is his inability to pull Christian McCaffrey from the game when we're winning. If we're rushing 35 times a game, chances are we're winning that game, and you have to trust that Mitchell's going to be able to carry the load, because he did last season. He did. He already proved it to you. It's not Jordan. It's not Ty Davis Price. It's not Jordan Mason, who has no proof. Like Mitchell's gotten the horse load before. But
you should be able to trust Ty Davis Price. Like when you're down to the end of that game, that one was frustrating for me. I don't always agree with the criticisms of Kyle Shanahan. Sometimes it feels like, hey, hindsight is 20/20. This one, 5 minutes left in that game. Like I get it that you weren't willing to rest your starters, but Jeff Wilson Jr. was technically a starter in that game. And so just because you didn't run CMC, I get the message he's trying to send that like, hey, Christian McCaffrey isn't any more special than any one of you guys. But is that really true? Like, I'm not so sure that that's the actual truth. I think you have to treat him as someone like Debo, where you're attempting to protect him from himself at sometimes.
I would like Christian McCaffrey put his street clothes on in the fourth quarter. Like that's what that's what I would.
Man, out of there. Sean 9519ers with the super chat. Imagine Kyle Shanahan with an elite quarterback, never mind 2016 and CMC. Wow. Hey, that's the hope, that we already have an elite quarterback. He's just recovering from a broken ankle and he needs more reps. Jaguayo, have a good night. Great to see you, my friend. Always appreciate the interaction. All right, 2 quick questions to wrap this one up, because we're coming near that midnight hour for you. And I know you turn into a pumpkin at midnight there in Texas. Is this defense elite, Randon? The Niners were on a freaking crazy pace through the first 5 games. And then what happens? Atlanta. Of course, the game that we're out. Then they get destroyed by Kansas City. Had a great second half against the Rams. Which defense is the real defense in your mind? I know that this is taking a stab in the dark, and the real test is this gauntlet of games that we have coming up now. But in making your prediction here at the halfway point, which one is the real deal?
Well, we're not the defense from the first part of the season. I mean, we just don't have Emmanuel Mosley in my mind now. Will that change with Jason Verrett? That remains to be seen. I don't think he plays. I don't think he plays to the level he did a couple years ago. It's just Father Time's undefeated. I hope I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong in that aspect. I'm just giving my feeling on the matter there. I think that the loss to the interior defensive line is a big deal. I mean, even though Armstead, his stats weren't fantastic, but he plugs up the rushing defense in the middle. He allows Nick Bosa to get more one-on-ones. So it's just really comfortable there. I'm not really worried about Kinlaw. He hasn't been on the field for more than a couple games every season. So that's just really a mute point for me there. I really think this team has the elite defensive players on the roster. But every team gets embarrassed from time to time. And
yes,
the Kansas City Chiefs have embarrassed a lot of people. And the Atlanta Falcons, as I said before we went there, aren't as bad as we think they are. So
no.
they've been in a lot of games this year. The record, if they could figure out a way to throw to, their top first round draft picks and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, they might even be better than what they are playing right now. So that was a long-winded answer to say yes. I think they still are.
Hey, nothing wrong with a long-winded answer. James Shaver, thank you very much. He says, thank you as always, for being you. Great show, sir. Thank you. We appreciate it. So is this defense elite? Yes, I believe that it is. I think what we saw at the beginning of the year prior to the injuries is closer to form, acknowledging that we played against lesser competition to start the year. But what we saw from the defense in those earlier games was very real, and I believe we'll see a return closer to that form than we have seen. Coming from David Lombardi of The Athletic, he points out the 49ers went from the number 2 ranked team in DVOA to the 31st ranked team, making them the most volatile defense in the league in that regard. So to me, it was the dam broke. It was the injuries piling up, coming up against the wrong opponents. The game against KC, when things get out of hand in the NFL, guys start making business decisions, and that's just a fact. When you know you're not winning a game, all of a sudden you're not laying your body on the line with the same ferocity that you would if you're neck and neck and attempting to win it. It felt like that one slipped away, and we allowed the momentum to really get us into a dejected point. Came back and laid the wood against the Rams, in particular in the second half. So I still see this defense, as I called them out prior to the season, as a top 3 defense. And I believe that by the end of the season, the real Slim Shady will stand up and this defense will show us they are who we thought they were.
Yeah, if you look at Emmanuel Mosley's out, if Verrett can play the high level of defense that some people think
Who's
he can.
That? Jason Verrett?
Jason Verrett, the cleat master right there. If he plays where he's out there, Armstead comes back and doesn't need a sideboard left leg, then this team is literally one personnel different than the beginning of the season, which is Kinlaw. And
I'm with you, though, that
the team is elite.
I don't have the faith either that Kinlaw will be able to finish the season. Nothing against why he can't finish it. It's an issue that is clearly very real, require multiple surgeries. And he has tried to fight through that, but I'm with you that at this point, I think it's being more than optimistic to hope that he comes back and finishes the season. I do expect we'll see him again, but I have my doubts as to whether he'll be able to finish. Let's just do a quick
But
game
one defensive
prediction.
tackle doesn't make us not elite.
No, it does not. And if it does, then were you really elite to begin with?
Yeah.
How do you see this game breaking out? No need to get into the exact score if you don't want to there, Randon, but do you have the Niners winning this one against LA? A clean sweep, 3 games against LA, 2 different teams bringing home the victories. Or are you a little bit concerned that this is a trap game or that Herbert might be on the precipice of a big shootout? How you feeling?
I think this is going to be a curb stomp for San Francisco.
Curb stomp. I like it.
So I think it's just the Chargers have no offensive skill players besides Eckler. Their defense allows, I think, the most rushing yards of any defense. They've given up over 100 yards like 6 consecutive games. And so, this is going to be I think this is going to be one of those 35 plus carry games for the team. And I think we're just going to curb stomp them. I think it's not even going to be close. It's going to be a multiple touchdown win game, I think, which I don't say often. I think teams play each other pretty hard most of the time in the NFL. But I think when you have that many big players out, your starting left tackle, both your wide receivers, your best defensive end, your best corner, like eventually injuries, only teams can go so far. And I just don't think that they have the depth to overcome that. I also think that the Niners are on an upswing with what they're playing. And if the offense plays anywhere near what they played against the Rams, this is just going to be an ass whooping, as they say.
Ass whooping. Well, I would be very excited by that. Sean951 is with you on the ass whooping, saying 42-13, big time prediction. I think the Niners will have a healthy lead going into the end of this one. However, I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert with or without the receiving threats out there, able to make some plays. I think my prediction is going to be a little much closer than what we're seeing there. I will give it towards the end of the week. But I think the way I'm going to see this one is the Niners jumping out, having a healthy lead going into the fourth, and then watching a little bit of that lead evaporate as Justin Herbert racks up some of those garbage yards with a little bit of a comeback. So I don't think the final score will be indicative of a blowout, but I do believe it will feel as if the Niners are in control of this one. My prediction is that coming out of this game, we feel confident for the second half of the season that the 49ers are going to close this one out strong. And I'm with Jay Cruz. Score doesn't matter, man. We just need the dub.
Would you take the spread? Would you take the Niners in the spread +7 right now?
+7.
Or what is it?
I would not.
-7? You don't think they win by more than a touchdown?
I do not. I believe that the Niners. My problem with 7 is that you're looking at a potential push there. I think that you're in that range of the Niners winning by 5 to 7. So I think that I'm seeing it as either not covering the spread or a push, but I'm not putting it as the Niners greater than 7 at this point. I hope that I'm wrong. And again, I believe that it will be a double-digit lead coming into the fourth quarter, but we know what the 49ers can do with leads when they get a little too comfortable. So I think Herbert will take advantage of that, but not to the point of being able to actually come back and win that game. I think the Niners take this one home.
Fair enough.
I'm in agreement with Jay Cruz. This was a great show. I like the new late night format, and I like the fact that we don't give a fuck anymore.
No, I mean, the 7 p.m. or that's 5 p.m. for you. Like, we know, we used to do the 5 p.m. show after work. We're still prim and proper. We're giving the fans a little salt and pepper, a little dizzle and dazzle, a little thunder, a little lightning, we're shaking it up.
Yes. I by the way, I will say to any of those that are like watching the re-recording and are like, what are these F-bombs? I'm so used. My prim and proper ears can't take it. I apologize. There was no warning. You didn't know it was coming. And here it is. So if you are offended by our salty language, I apologize. However, there's probably going to be, just at least a little bit more of it than there used to be because we're going on much later and we're both a lot more tired than we were. And that's going to lead to some F-bombs. But I like what Sean951 saying here. The confidence is good. He says, Rob, you are smoking. When was the last time the 49ers won by less than 7 at home on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football? I'm with you on Monday Night Football. The football gods love the Niners on Monday Night Football. We do shine on Sunday Night Football. It ain't quite the same, but I like the confidence. I'm here for it. I think the Niners will have a good game. I can't wait to see the Niners playing again on frickin' Sunday night, Randon. It is going to be electric, my friend.
Beers aplenty, football amenti. Let's go.
Let's get this thing going. All right, we're wrapping up the show. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, I will be back on tomorrow, 6 p.m. with Jack Hammer. Friday, looking at the live 49ers mailbag. So look for that tweet coming out on Friday, looking for your mailbag submissions, or send in your mailbag submissions right now to 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. And then look out for the Sneakerhead call-in show happening this Saturday, looking at the afternoon because that was the time people seemed to prefer for it. Randon, I look forward to our show next week, good sir, where hopefully we will be talking about crushing the Chargers and how I was so wrong about the Niners not covering that spread. Hopefully it will be 42-13, sir.
Let's get another win Wednesday. Thank you so much for that. Go and follow me and listen to some hockey royalty. And for all of you salty Sharks fans, you guys are going to be in the lottery for one of the best prospects to ever come across the board in Connor Bedard. So your season is not lost.
Salty Shark fans in the lottery. How about them apples? Yes, the links to hockey royalty are down below in the description of the video, as are the links to follow Randon on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure that you do that. And oh, by the way, on your way out, smash the like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And if you haven't, what's wrong with you? What's happening? Thank you so much for being here. We will be back. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, cheers, faithful.